On, guys? I think we should be live right now. Just making sure everything is good. It's been a little while since we did a live stream, y'all, so I'm excited. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome back. I'm Darian. This is Darian the Dev, and we talk about everything from tech, entrepreneurship, coding, startups, all that good stuff here on the channel. And right there at that link, DarianTheDev.thinkific.com, you guys can go take my free Intro to Coding Bootcamp course where I put everything in there that I wish that I knew going into Coding Bootcamp. Completely free course. And yeah, shameless plug before we get started. But so this series, Life After Coding Bootcamp, is super exciting to me because I know a lot of people who are watching this channel right now. A lot of y'all are either going to Coding Bootcamp, thinking about going to Coding Bootcamp, or trying to learn how to code or transition into a career in tech, whatever the case may be. And I was there a year ago, and now I am currently, I'm working as a software developer in my first job, and possibly looking for another job as well. So moving further in my career. And so with that being said, I think it's just super important that bootcamp grads share their stories and kind of show other people or tell other people what to expect, or show them what they should be learning or doing or studying to be successful. It's expensive if you don't get a scholarship or something like that, and it's very hard too, in the sense of learning something entirely new. And so I started this series because I wanted to talk to a lot of people and hear from all over and just hear their experiences, how they got into tech, coming from a non-computer science background and going, learning all this stuff, going through Coding Bootcamp and working as software developers. And so today we have a fellow YouTuber. Her name is Tiffany. She's incredible. She's down in, I believe, Dallas, Texas, but we'll confirm that when she hops on. I'm going to go ahead and call her in just a moment. I'm supposed to call her at 8 o'clock Eastern. So about one more minute, I'm going to call her, bring her in. And I'm going to put Tiffany's channel up as well, so that when she comes in, you guys can check it out. Her channel is actually called Tiffany. I find her channel by doing Tiffany Coding, just because Tiffany, there's just so many different keywords and videos that pop up. So this is how I found her channel, Tiffany Coding, and I'm going to go ahead and call her, bring her in, and we are going to go ahead and get the stream started.
Hello?
Hey, Tiffany.
Yeah. Hold on.
I know, yeah, can you see me?
I see you, but I think I pressed the wrong button. I just did audio.
Oh, okay. Let's see. You want to hang up and I'll call you again?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
I'll hit the right button this time.
Okay. Yep, perfect.
Okay.
So...
Here we go.
Hey, what's going on, Tiffany?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. It's so good to talk to you. I've been watching your channel for, I don't know, it's been a while. The first video I ever saw was your 1 year after Coding Bootcamp.
Nice.
So
I feel like everyone's seen that one.
Oh yeah. Cause I can't remember exactly when. I might have either been in my boot camp or getting ready to go to boot camp, and I was just trying to soak up everything I could, just trying to hear I just wanted to be ready for whatever, every scenario. I was just paranoid. And yeah, I was just, and then the YouTube was kind of where I got everything from before I went to boot camp. So so can you go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody?
Yes. So I'm Tiffany. Basically, I'm from Dallas, Texas area. I've been a developer professionally for probably 2 years now, going on 3. So I'm a software engineer at a company called MusicBed. They do music licensing. And then I also have my own YouTube channel that I manage, and then I also am the Director of Digital Media for Women Who Code DFW area, and I also manage their YouTube channel as well. So.
That's awesome.
That's me.
That's so cool. So you guys do music streaming?
So they license music. So if you are like a filmmaker or a YouTuber and you need music, they have subscriptions and music available. So
that's really cool. What stack do you guys work in?
So I work primarily in the back end. So we use Laravel in the back end, and on the front end, they use React.
Okay, that's really cool. So I think you already said, did you say how long you'd already been a professional dev?
Yeah, so about 2.5 years now.
2.5 years? Okay. All right, cool. So what about before you started coding? What was career and jobs looking like before coding?
Not very great.
Yeah.
So I worked for a life insurance company, and the job title was data integrity analyst, and it wasn't fun at all. And so it wasn't very anything going on that's interesting. It was just looking at information and like, oh yeah, that looks right. And I'm like, what does that even mean? So basically that was my job.
Was it techie?
Very quickly.
Did it involve anything? Techie? Were you doing tech kind of stuff a little bit, or was it like not even on the radar at that time?
Not at all. The most thing I did was like go into like SQL Server and like open a query and like click run. That's
okay. I mean, that's cool. I had never seen SQL. I think I had accidentally stumbled on like, I think, what is it, like PHP my admin or something. It wasn't even mine. It was just like I was digging through a folder or something on my computer and found it and opened it and was just like, oh my god, like what is this? And just remember closing everything down. But I had never seen a database or anything like that before.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you transition? How did you transition? Like, where did your transition start from whatever you previously did into coding?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a funny story. Not really funny, but basically, I did some coding back in college, and so around 2009, I found out about web development, and then I thought like I'd get a job right after college. I studied MIS. And I was like, okay, cool. I know some coding stuff. Let's get a job. And of course, that didn't happen right away. In fact, the recruiter was like, I could hear him like laughing on the other end of the phone, like, yeah, right. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's rude. But anyways, I kind of decided, okay, I need more projects, more experience. So I was like, well, got to start working. And so eventually I did land at the life insurance company. And so while I was there, I was like, I spent a lot of time looking for another job, basically, but nothing worked out. So I was like, well, I guess I'm supposed to be here for a little bit. So I kind of settled in a little bit. And then after a while, I was like, all right, I got to start doing some stuff. So I found Codecademy. And then I was looking up some other online stuff and like any resources I could just to like get a little bit of coding in my day somewhere. And then I was joking with my siblings at that time, and I'm like, if I just had all the time in the day to code, I could be really good at this. And they were like, yeah, okay, go to work.
That's so true. Yeah, no, I know it's so true though. Yeah. So
I didn't know that was the thing.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So before you like stumbled upon Codecademy and everything, how were you teaching it? Like, what were you coding before all that, and then how were you learning back then?
So a lot of it was me trying to navigate that. So before, like when I first started, it was a lot of stuff in school, and it was like books and stuff. And when I got out and started living in the real world, I'm like, well, how do I even go about learning this? And so that's what I did. I just went online and was like, okay, how to learn how to code, basically, is what I was like trying to search for. And any resource that came up, I would look at, and articles were super interesting to me. Learning about how people got into like coding and just figuring out what resources they use, that helped me a lot. So a lot of it was just research and trying to figure out what resources. And then I started to be like, okay, well, somebody mentioned Codecademy, so go try that out. And somebody tried like the Khan Academy. So I'm like, okay, let's look at that and see what that's about. So it was just kind of just picking up things as I was going.
Do you remember what your first, like, very first thing you tried as a project, or like their very first attempt at a website or whatever it was?
The only thing that comes to mind is my parents own their own business. And
That's
back when I
cool.
was in school, I was like, maybe I can make them a website. So I used Microsoft Front Page, which I had got a CD of from school, and I started to try to code a website. It was
Microsoft
the
Front
worst
Page?
thing. Yeah, it
Oh, I
was.
gotta Google that real quick. I don't know
Yeah,
what that
yeah,
is.
do that. I don't even think it's around anymore. I'm pretty sure no. But it was the first thing that I remember. Like, hey, I'm kind of making something. So the
Yeah.
way it's set up is like you could, with HTML and CSS, you could make websites with it. It seemed to be very interactive as well. So I was like, okay, let's try this out. And then I kind of hit roadblocks because I'm like, how do I even get this on the internet to live? And like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of like questions like that. I'm like, I don't know
Yup.
how. So I was like, I need way more experience than I have right now.
This is
to
cool.
try to
So
figure it
like,
out.
so what was this? So did you? It looks kind of. It almost has like a paint. It almost like paint feel. Like it,
Yeah.
I don't know how did it work. Was it like, was this actually coding, or was this like, drag and drop, or how did this work?
So from what I remember, it was a little bit of like dragging and dropping stuff,
Uh huh.
and like you can go through and like change some of the code and stuff. But I was just it was a whole bunch of me fumbling with it basically, and trying to figure like use what I've learned in school
Yeah.
to try to help me build this website that never existed with Microsoft Front Page. That is,
Yeah. This. I mean, it reminds like WordPress before WordPress.
yeah.
I was like, I don't know. That's really cool. That's really cool. So in college, like, did you go to college or finish or?
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
finished. I just did a bachelor's in management information systems and finance.
Okay.
And so yeah, I was like, all right, I finished.
Yeah.
That was bad.
So
Like you're gonna go to school, so I went to school.
yeah, that's okay. Okay. So yeah, I'm sorry. I had a much more turbulent, I guess, arrival into tech. But so I didn't finish college, but I guess it's curious how like you study finance in college and then you end up working in tech. So do you ever see like an overlap between the two? Do you think you get to use do you ever get to like? Do you think they ever overlap a little bit, like what you studied in college and get into like what you do in your career now?
I think for me it does a little bit.
Yeah.
Just 'cause I had a little bit of the computer science stuff, but I tell you a lot of it I forgot about.
Yeah.
And with finance, it's like now because a lot of it was like stocks and all that other stuff. And I was like getting out of college. I'm like, I'm not fooling with none of that. I just wanted to like do
Right.
financial planning and help people
Right.
like figure out their finances.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I don't really use a lot of the financial skills, unfortunately. But I'm like, I need to get back into like figuring out stocks again because I'm like, I really should start investing.
So like, okay, so I'm sure you work with people who have like CS degrees and did the very traditional like way probably into and probably like doing it very long. So what is it like working with people of like coming from a boot camp background? Do you notice like do they treat you a certain type of way, or do you think there's like a bias, or are they usually pretty like embracive? And because I know it's kind of a mixed bag. Like I work at a really big company, so it could be a mixed bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So with me, it's been pretty good. I could say that everyone I've come into contact with has been helpful for me, especially if they did have that CS background. Everyone wants to help, and so I've had a very kind of lucky experience where I haven't had to deal with a lot of people that I work with that are just like, yeah, you suck at life.
Right. That's good.
Everyone's been like, hey, you're not at this level, but we want to get you to this level. How do we do that together?
That's good. That's good.
Good.
So what coding boot camp? So I think you said it's coding Dojo, right?
Yeah.
So what? I guess what was the curriculum? What they teach you guys in boot camp?
Yeah. So with Coding Dojo, it was 3 different programming languages for 3 months. And so basically we started out doing PHP, and they don't do PHP anymore. It's funny, they moved on to Python. So It was PHP, and then it was JavaScript. We learned Angular and Node, and then we did Ruby on Rails for like that last one.
That's nice. So it's basically full stack, yeah.
Yeah, full stack.
So let me see. Okay, so when you started bootcamp, I guess, but before you went to bootcamp, did you prep? How did you prep? Was there like an interview process to get into the bootcamp? Can you kind of like talk about how like that was?
Yeah, so there definitely was an interview. I was super nervous about the whole thing. I honestly didn't think I stood a chance. I was like, well, I'll try and see if this works.
Yep.
But the interview process was pretty chill. I basically, you just go in there and they show you a piece of code and you talk about it and do you know what this is doing? If not, that's fine. So that conversation happened, and then after that technical piece, I was like, well, we'll see. And then they were like, hey, you got in. And I was like, what? And so then I had that process of like, okay, now I have to figure out how I'm going to pay for this because I wasn't planning on getting in.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, I was like, listen, if I don't get approved for a loan, I can't do this. And so luckily things worked out to where I did, and I was able to get a loan for it and pay for it. But after going through that whole process, it was then, okay, now let's do some prep work. And the thing I tell people is I'm like, listen, before you even apply to boot camp, code on your own first. See how you feel about it, and then kind of go from there.
Definitely.
And so because I had, because I had that time before to really spend time a little bit coding, even if it was just sometimes at work and at home and all these other places, like, I was like, I want to do this. I knew I wanted to do it. And so when it came to the prep work, I was like, I'm good. Let's go. So a lot of it was just like algorithms, and then that basic algorithm stuff of like, FizzBuzz stuff kind of thing. And working through those things and how would you go about solving it. And during that time, I also was like, all right, I know JavaScript is going to be in it. Let me look at some JavaScript stuff. And that's another reason I went back to those resources, like I was saying, like Code Academy and stuff like that, because I was like, I need to figure out how to do this thing. And I wanted to be as prepared as possible. You can only do so much, but I was like, well, I could do the best I can to prepare myself to make sure that I'm at least somewhat confident in at least the first week, and be like, okay, I see HTML and CSS. And then they start getting to the harder stuff. I'm like, I don't know this is much, but I've seen a little bit before.
So you said there was a coding piece to the interview. So I know they had prep work, but did they actually have you code on the spot or something? Like when you went to the actual, like, to get into the coding boot camp, I guess.
Yeah. So it's kind of set up like this, and basically he was on the screen, and he was like, all right, here's some code, and then some of it was kind of like, okay, do you know what a variable is, or do you know this? But some of it was actual like coding stuff.
Oh, so that's wild. That's way different. Okay, so I probably wouldn't have got in your boot camp, because I wouldn't have been ready if they would have asked me to code right then and there, like as soon as I got to, like, in terms of algorithm or something like that. There's no way I would have been ready. So that's crazy that they actually expected you to do that just to get. So I'm guessing the pre-work came after that. Like once you then the pre-work came. Yeah.
And let me specify, it's not like it was like some big thing that nobody would know. It's like, okay, here's a method, what's it doing, and then also like, can you add these numbers together, sort of thing. It wasn't anything like really intense. The coding prep was when the like where it got real, Like, really.
Same here.
But it was just like messages.
But see, so from my boot camp, it was which like the prep work was, I guess, what your kind of interview would have been, like the coding part, because we had to do that kind of to determine if you got in. Like if you did well enough on the pre-work, you could determine that, and that was the scary part. So did you feel ready after all this studying, everything you were doing, algorithms, all that good stuff? Did you feel ready when boot camp actually started, when you went in week 1?
I felt as ready as I was going to be. I was like, listen, I got in, I started looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, I've done what I think is the best that I could do, and so I was like, let's just go. At that point, I was like ready to start with the boot camp. So I was like, let's make it happen already. Let's do it. Let's go.
Do it. Yeah. And you said yours was 3 months, right?
Yeah, 3 months.
3 months. So did you work during coding boot camp?
No, completely full time.
Okay.
So I left that life insurance job and was like, okay, I'm gonna go do this.
Yep. Gotta take the leap. So what is your advice? I always like to ask people, like, what is their advice to other people on working during coding boot camp, or if they should work? Because I know, like, I always, like, mine was 9 to 5 and Monday through Friday, and I feel like I did have like classmates that worked, but it was on the weekends usually. So, and it'd be obviously part time. So what's your thoughts on people trying to work part time or full time really and go to coding boot camp at the same time?
It'd be hard.
Very. And you wouldn't sleep a lot.
That's crazy. I've seen people try to do it, and it's very difficult. I wouldn't recommend it if you have no other choice and you have to work. Like, keep it on the weekends, like you said. Try to do as much work as you can on the weekends, but you're gonna have to also make some time to like study on the weekends too. So it's like, I don't know how that balance would work out. But yeah, I'd say if you don't have to work, or if you can get away with not working for a few months, then I don't do it. Yeah. Or go part-time boot camp or online or whatever else.
Yeah. So did you apply for jobs while you were in coding boot camp, or did you wait until you graduated to start applying for jobs?
So I actually got contacted by a recruiter, like,
nice,
last month of the boot camp.
Nice.
And I wasn't actively looking for jobs. I was looking, but I was looking at requirements and kind of what was out there, because I wanted to be like, all right, so let me do some research on what people are looking for. But I got contacted, like I said, I actually went to the recruiter interview like the day that we were starting Ruby on Rails. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go see a recruiter. So I went and did that. I mean, it didn't work out, but it's still good to have the experience of getting in front of those people, because now it's a different thing, right? So I've been in front of recruiters where, you know, at that time I didn't know anything, and I didn't know a lot about, you know, coding and all that other stuff. So now I'm like, let me test it out. Let me see, now that I have more knowledge, like, what does that interview process look like?
So what's your, do you have any tips, you know, to give others on maybe applying for jobs while they're in coding boot camp? Maybe like type of jobs they should look for, like what are the signs that you should apply to a certain type of job?
Yeah, so I'd say read up on the company. A lot of times they post the company. Sometimes if you're like some recruiting agency, they don't post the company.
I know, it's annoying, yeah.
And that's frustrating, because you're just like, you know, paper of requirements. Like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
So if that's all you have, then look at the requirements. Look to see, they normally have something like a little blurb about the company or whatever. If there's anything that interests you, like, apply for it. Just apply. And that was advice that was constantly being fed to us as well. It's like, just apply for it. I also would kind of steer away from things that are just like specifically like junior developers and all those other things. And the main reason for that is like, you might be stuck there. So don't be in a position where you're stuck in a place where you're like, I'm just a junior forever.
Wow, that's really interesting advice.
Yeah, so I'd say, I mean, sure, if that's all you could find. Don't specifically say in your browser, don't go there and say junior developer jobs. Just look for developer jobs. And if it's like 5 years or less experience, just go and try it, because you never really know. A lot of times they're throwing those requirements out there, and like I said, they are recruiters who just don't know. And so just try it and see what happens.
Get the interview.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get in front of people. That's the main thing. So whatever you have to do to get in front of those people is very. I've always used like LinkedIn and was like reaching out to people, and like I got really good at doing that and writing emails to recruiters.
Okay, that's a good strategy.
Actionable emails.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Did that work out pretty well? Like doing the
yeah. So it always initiated the conversation.
Right.
So, and that's what it's about. So I'd be like, hey, do you have time tomorrow to speak? Between this time and this time.
That's cool.
And more often than not, it was sure, let's phone call. So
were those like were they hiring managers, HR people? Like, how did you know who to reach out to and kind of get that started?
Stock people.
Yeah.
Basically, on if it was like a job posting on LinkedIn, they'll normally say who posted it. And then when I was looking, I was like, okay, that's like HR manager person. And then I would go and find their email through Clearbit. I think that's what it's called, Clearbit, ClearConnect, one of those. I forget the name of it exactly. But I would go on there and find that person's name if they existed on there. And it was just basically a tool that you could use to find people's emails. And so I would look up, and I got their email, and now I'm emailing their personal email instead of being in this inbox of flooded resumes.
That's cool. Is that a free tool or?
It was free last time I used it.
Really? I was like, that's kind of sweet.
Yeah.
That's cool. So in your boot camp, did you have I'm sure you had a final project. So what was your final project for your boot camp?
So we had a few projects that we worked on. So one of them that I actually liked was one of those. I'm clicking stuff on the thing. There we go. Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
I was trying to fool with Skype because I moved away from the screen. I'm like,
no, you're good.
So Ruby on Rails. So I did a project. Basically, it was a bookstore. So I had where you can sign in or create an account, and then once you create an account, you're logged into like the admin area, if that's what you want to call it, or the dashboard, if you will. And so once you were there, you were able to post books or buy books. So people would, you would hope that people would buy books or that they would be selling books, and so then you'd have like catalog to choose from. So that was kind of that whole one of the projects that I did. A lot of it involves store-based things. So I don't know what the thing is with stores, but honestly, I like the idea that it seems like something that people use every day.
Like something realistic. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
They're buying and selling things online. So I did something similar as well in JavaScript with different stuff. But it was kind of just that same thing as what we did. I did a group project as well, and it was also a store.
Okay.
One of the students, he actually had his mom sold jewelry, I think it was, and so he wanted to create her website. So.
Oh, that's cool. So what was that group project experience like in terms of using version control with other people? Probably I don't know if that was your first time. My final project was my first time using like version control with other people. So you got merge conflicts and a lot of other stuff going on that you got to learn about. So what was that like? And just learning how to manage a project too. So like being on a timeline and breaking things into different pieces, and everybody probably is better, has strengths in other areas. So what was that process like?
It got hectic.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yep.
Like, what is this? There seems to be like no organization whatsoever, and it's, so be it. We don't really know what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. And
Yep.
Yep. And if you haven't been exposed to like real agile yet, or like a real workflow or real team process, it's hard to know what to do anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a lot. I mean, it was this guy's project, right? So he wanted to create this. So he essentially had the idea, and he had like thoughts on pages he wanted to create, how he wanted it to look. So it was just more so like, okay, who's going to work on what? And then once you got to that part, it's like, well, how do we want to work on this?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, like you were saying, dealing with Git. And it's like, all right, well, did you know that you can't do this unless you pulled, or you can't do this?
Yep.
So it was a whole learning process of trying to figure out how to navigate this project. I don't think we finished that project in its entirety, but we went to a certain point, and then
was everybody still good at the end? Was everybody still friends? Is everybody still okay?
Good as to be.
Couple feelings get hurt.
Pretty much. Look, there's always going to be something.
There's some tough conversations getting had. Yeah. Okay.
Our project, though.
Yeah. So did you have like a demo day or something for your graduation, where like maybe employers come and see your final project and ask you guys about it, or what? I guess what was the big hurrah, like the graduation for the boot camp?
Man, I remember. Now you're asking me stuff I don't remember. I remember there was a day that we were all together. I'm pretty sure that was the final project day, kind of like graduation. I think we got like a certificate or something. And at this point, I don't really know, so I'm going to stop talking about that piece. But I know that we had projects and stuff that we were working on, and there were a few students who were showing off some of the things that they did. So there was definitely that, but it was not like employers and stuff. Another thing that I did not mention is Coding Dojo Dallas. That was their first year in Dallas. And so it was just, we were the guinea pigs.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We're trying to figure it out. Yeah, in our city, we're just like,
you
know, what's supposed to happen here.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, because you guys, in a sense, they have a vested interest in that first cohort's success. Like, you guys going out, being successful, getting jobs and everything brings in the next cohort for them, and it builds their brand. So, like, they needed you guys to be successful, kind of. So, that's good. So, how long did it take after you graduated to get your first job?
Forever.
Really?
It seems like forever. So, the thing of it is, I got a job. We graduated in July. I got a job at the end of September, and it was not a coding job whatsoever. So really? I was a business systems analyst.
Okay.
And I was working at a imaging center. And so basically, I hated that job, to be quite honest. But I didn't know that going in. I was just like, oh, this would be a good experience. But it was not a good fit. And so after that, I ended up doing some teaching. So I taught for like a local group called Coastream Studios. And they went to basically inner cities where, you know, kids didn't have the best environments. And so they taught them like coding skills. And so I did that for a little bit. And then I also taught at another coding boot camp, a part-time coding boot camp locally as well. So I did a lot of teaching, and then I finally landed my first position as a web developer like a year later after I graduated from coding boot camp. So it was definitely a long road.
I mean, hey, so the teaching is funny because how much did teaching help you, do you feel, get better as a developer?
I felt it helped a lot because I'm looking at their code,
right.
And part of my job was to like kind of not really grade their homework, but to like review it and give them suggestions and stuff. And so it forced me to complete the assignments before they got done with it, and then also look and see what they were doing. I'm like, oh, you came up with this solution. That might have been better than what I had. So kind of have that. So
that's good. Helpful. That's good. Yeah. Okay, so the job hunting and the interview process.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you, first of all, did you have any bombing experiences where you just straight up just bombed any technical interviews?
If there were, I pushed them out of my mind and I don't remember them.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I had weird ones though.
I wish I could.
One of the ones, one of the ones I had, like, it was basically, I really wanted to work for this company too, but they were like, I go in and they're like, yeah, so here's the website. could you make it in HTML and CSS on a whiteboard? And I'm like, you want me to do what? Who's coding a website in HTML and CSS on a whiteboard? So I was like, this is weird. And it was just very basic. Like, okay, you don't have to do all of it, but like, how would you determine where the boxes are going to go and what the HTML is going to look like for that? It was just very interesting. I had never done that before. I was ready to solve a algorithm.
Right,
and it's
right.
like, here you go, make a website. I'm like,
that is strange.
You have code on this?
Yeah, I've never heard that before. That's weird.
Yes. It's the one that stood out the most. I was like, what are you? And all that, I didn't even get the job. I was like, come on.
So, any other like memorable interviewing experiences? I don't know. I don't know. That was really interesting. Like I had some where I had to code like this, but on like a blank document, like show another screen on like a Google Doc one time. I don't know. You had any other weird interviews?
Not really weird. The one where I actually got the job, like he had brought in his laptop, and he was just like, "Hey, you sit at my laptop," and he had the big old screen, and he had it on there, and I was basically at the computer, and it was him. And it was only, he was the senior developer on the team, and then there was also a database developer on the team. And so they were both there, and he'd asked me stuff, but then he was so excited to finally have somebody to, like, talk to about coding stuff that he was just, like, ran with it. And he was just, like, doing it. And I'm like, so do you want me to, like, do anything? So it was kind of just weird. I was like,
what?
All right, cool. Let's just talk about this then. So it was basically like him just being really excited about the whole process. And I'm just like, this is very strange. But ultimately, I did, talk about like how I would solve it and all these other things.
Yeah.
And eventually I found out that's all people really care about anyway. So they just care about how you're going to go about solving it.
Right.
And then they'll ask you questions from there. But yeah, that was kind of an interesting one where I'm just like,
that is
okay, cool. But it was nice to be able to have the laptop in front of me so that I could like type, because usually you are on a whiteboard, so that was weird for me because I wasn't going in expecting that. I was like, all right, where's the whiteboard? And he's like, well, I couldn't get that room, so we're on my laptop. I was like, oh, okay. Cool. This works.
So do you remember how many jobs you actually applied for and how many you interviewed with? I guess like the ratio?
I don't know exactly how many I applied to. I know that I had one time, and I don't have it on this laptop, but I had a whole running document of all the jobs I applied to within a specific time period. And I think it might have been like 6 to 8 months, and it was just like, all right, I applied to all these jobs. I mean, it was like pages of like job descriptions and stuff. So it wasn't a lot, but it just seemed like a lot because job descriptions are long. But I did keep that information just for myself because I was like, when people call, and I'm like, I have no idea what job you're talking about. So I was like, well, I should probably have that readily available. And as far as like interviews are concerned, man, I must have went through a couple of handfuls of interviews, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but a lot of it was just me being shut down. Like, no, we're not going to.
Are we talking like 10 plus, 20 plus? Like how many you think, if you had to estimate?
Yeah, probably about 10 plus. And a lot, like I said, a lot of that is I got an interview and then it was like, no. But I had sent out a ton of like applications,
right?
I didn't hear anything back,
right?
And I don't count those because I'm like,
oh really? You don't even
nothing.
So would you say? So in terms of just straight applications, like even the cold ones, like how many would you think? Like 50, 75, 100 plus?
I'd probably say about 50 or so, 50, 60.
50, yep.
It was a lot of them. Just like,
yeah.
Because it was a long time period too. So I'm over here trying to make stuff happen, and I'm like, well, that didn't work. And now I can say like oh, that didn't really matter. But it stings real bad when you don't hear back or someone's like, no. And I'm like, but why?
No,
and you don't get that feedback. And so it's tough.
And the thing is, I think, like, especially if you don't have that much experience on paper or professionally, if you don't have any experience, like, you just got, it is a numbers game. You just got to get out there and just try to get as many interviews as possible, which means you got to put a ton of applications out there just so you can get a handful of interviews and then try to maximize on those, be ready for those, and hopefully land something.
Right. And I started to split my approach after a while. Like, instead of just like, let me just throw a whole bunch of resumes out there, it was like, all right, let me go to these events and see if there's somebody that's hired. Let me send a resume, but also this meetup is having an event tonight, and it's at a place where I send a resume to. So let's see if HR is there. And so at that point, it was kind of more so a lot of not right now that were happening. So it was not flat out no, but it was like, maybe not right now. So that kind of made me a little bit hopeful, but also it was just great because now I'm talking to people instead of just a screen, and then I really don't know where that's going.
And not even knowing if your resume is getting looked at or even considered. So that's really good advice. I didn't really get out there and network like that. But yeah, that's great advice. So since you graduated, what's been your biggest realization since you've been in the professional world as a dev?
A lot of it is you know stuff, but you still don't know a lot of stuff.
Yeah, especially when you start working on big code bases, Yeah,
and it's just like, yeah, I know this and this separately, but you put them together. And like, what? So there was a lot of just like that, but it's really difficult too because imposter syndrome like kicked in, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and should I really be doing this? I'm like, well, it did take me a while to get here. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be here. And it's just a lot of like going back and forth with yourself and like doubt, really. But at the end of the day, I'm like, listen, I'm here, I'm doing my job, I'm getting work done. I'm also contributing to our code base, and I'm in a position right now where like when we do push code, or when I do push code and a new feature goes on, it's like even while I'm going through the whole process, I have support, and so it's a really good feeling. But when you first step into that first job, you're like, what am I doing? So yeah, it's crazy. So I'd say if as far as like advice is concerned, that definitely like you're doing a good job. Like, don't doubt yourself too much because you've got there and you're doing a great job. And so it took a long time for me to realize that I am doing okay. Just got to do it every day.
That's important. Any advice that you would give to yourself before you went to boot camp?
Yeah. Take it one day at a time. I think I was trying to like get everything. I was like, man, I don't know that. And maybe I should spend like so much more time on this one little thing that probably doesn't even matter. But it's also just like, you don't have to know everything. And it's hard, especially when you're going through the boot camp, and with us like doing 3 different languages, you're like, all right, I got to pick up all this stuff because I'm paying for it. It's different value when you put your money down. You're like, I got to get
it's a big commitment.
Yeah. So definitely take it one day at a time, and don't be afraid to ask for help from those around you, and then also just the instructors. And then if you have to, like, go outside and find Slack groups to talk to if you need to find people to like ask questions about specific languages or just specific groups of people. And then, like I said, get out there and go to meetups. Don't wait until you're done with the boot camp or started the boot camp. No. Get out there now and put yourself in community because it's just going to help you.
I think some really good advice that I got in boot camp was everybody you're going to boot camp with, you're gonna all be competing for the same jobs too. So like ultimately, you're all filling out the same apps. So it's like what you're saying, going out to meetups and everything, and whatever you can do to set yourself apart. YouTube channel, anything,
Yep.
what like any little thing that at least shows that you have some different level, like maybe not professional experience, but some other level of commitment to learning or growing as a developer.
And they always ask you that too in interviews. They're like, so what do you do like to learn more stuff?
Exactly.
Don't lie about it. Just go out and do it.
Just go out and do stuff. Exactly. Also, I was supposed to. I guess I didn't ask when we were talking about the boot camp. Did you have like a career counselor? I know you were like the very first cohort for the Coding Dojo. So were they there yet? Like, did they already figure out that they should have career counselors and help people navigate the tech space and how to like get a tech resume and up, like all that good stuff? No.
I wish they were more present.
Right.
I would say that much.
Right.
We had emails every now and again like, hey, it's almost time to like ramp up your resume, and I'm like, all right, cool. But they didn't have someone specifically for the Dallas area when we graduated, so they flew in somebody from their California location and one that was going to be at the Seattle location, and so together they kind of went through like that whole career process with us and like took us through resumes and stuff. But at that same time, we had an incident go on in downtown Dallas, and it wasn't safe for us to go there anymore. And so they there was a shooting that happened, and they closed off the area that was close to the Coding boot camp. So we couldn't exactly get there. Yep. So we had one day with them, and it was just like,
that's it?
Like, that's so good.
How big was your class? How many people did you have?
There was, I think, 9 or 10 people that made it. We started out with 25 or so, and it quickly dwindled. And I was like, where's their going? It's crazy. There was a couple of them that were just like, they went to a different boot camp, and then there was some that were just like, yeah, I can't do this.
Just didn't want to do it. Yeah.
But yeah, I was the last female standing, pretty much.
Really?
And I was like, well, this is great. And then at the same time, I'm like, this is going to be what work looks like for me. Right. So I get used to it.
Did that end up being true? Was work really like that?
Yeah, pretty much. There was one place when there was another black developer on the team. And I was like, oh, man, look at this.
Yeah.
But it's very rare.
Yeah, that's...
Unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah, so there was that, and then we have a female developer on the team now. She's remote, so it's not exactly the same.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, but because she's in a whole different state as well. So, yeah, that's for the most part it was true.
Okay.
Unfortunately. So what I ended up doing
crazy.
since career services wasn't really present, there was the Iron Yard, which I'm pretty sure people heard about in down.
Yep.
So they had as well. They were in downtown Dallas, and they were very close to where I was at Coding Dojo. And I told you some people went to a different coding boot camp, and I stayed in contact with those people. And one of the people I stayed in contact with, she was like, "Hey, like if you need resume help, like come over here. Like she's willing to help you." Blah 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 blah. And I was like, "Cool." So I did that. So I went over there and was like, help me, please. And so she was nice enough, the director over there, Caitlin, she was really great about like, well, here's what you should do, and here's the fixes on your resume that I think that you should do, and just very helpful.
Okay. That's good. At least
she did the Dallas market, so that was good.
Right, and that's good that they at least made some effort, even though it wasn't like the best, but they made some effort to get you some help and at least like help y'all kind of get your resumes ready and everything. So yeah, how much time was everybody getting with these people? Like if they did all this stuff in one day, I guess there's 10 of y'all, so maybe it could be a little bit better.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. A lot of it was in a group setting, so it's like
they just
applied.
Oh,
and,
okay. Got you.
Yeah, that way. But I should say, like, now they're much better. They have someone dedicated in that position. But yeah, it was rather unfortunate, and we were all like, "Wait a minute, there's nobody." Like, we were just like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah, well, that's
scary.
interesting. No, I always ask those type of questions because, like, you're all the way in Texas, so it's interesting to see that these boot camps have like such similar structure everywhere. So like I know people who've gone to like Flatiron in New York, and now hearing about Coding Dojo. You're the first Coding Dojo graduate I met. I went to one called Grand Circus here in Detroit. So it's just funny that they're all similar. And then you went at the very early stages, so I know that Grand Circus was like, I know their first cohort, they made a ton of improvements on that too. So it's interesting to see how no matter where you go, it's kind of like, from what I hear, the rigor, I hear, what's the one, Dev Mountain? I think it's in Utah or something like that.
Yeah, they have Dev Mountain here too. Yeah.
Oh, do they?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
we had a couple people.
No, wait. Okay, let me look it up because now I'll feel bad.
Maybe it's a different one.
If it's wrong, I was like, okay, so then it might be. But no, I hear that one is like intense. Like I hear that one is like one of the, I think people live, like, you go like live on campus or something like that.
Yeah, you live in the area and you just go there, and I looked them up, like, I was like, I'm not here for all this.
Serious?
I was like, that's a bit much on my end. I mean, you already, like, if I had to like move to a different state or something to do that was crazy. Like, we had people that went to Coding Dojo that came from like different states. But I'm just like, how are y'all doing this? Like, one of them was from Washington. I'm like,
that's a big commitment. Yeah, because, okay, so I guess they do. It says that they're in Phoenix, Arizona, so I'm guessing they just have, like, it sounds like campuses. But yeah, that's pretty. But other than that, though, I know there's like extreme cases like that. Where, like, all right, most boot camps don't have dorms where you go live there, but they all have like a similar structure and everything. It's so interesting to just hear that, like, for the most part, it works. Like, I know a lot of people think that the boot camp thing is getting like saturated and like, go to college and just get a CS degree, blah blah. Hey, would you recommend a coding boot camp to someone else?
I'm gonna be honest. If I waited any longer to go, I wouldn't have went. I'd be like, nah, I can't do it. And it was because of the oversaturation. It's like, oh no, now there's this one, now there's this one, and now I'd be like, well, which one should I go to? But then it's like, well, is this even worth it? So you start thinking about those things, but there's so much stuff online to learn from. I tell people, listen, if you absolutely need face-to-face, then yes, go to a coding boot camp. If you could do it online, do it online. If you want to go get a CS degree, you go get a CS degree. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
But you can only do what's best for you at that time. But yeah, if I had to redo it over again, I don't know if I'd be going. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a hard decision.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. That's real. I think that's very honest advice, very real advice, because there is a ton of resources online, and for the most part, like, everything you learn at a boot camp, it's not like it couldn't be learned online. But like you said, I think the community and the teacher and all that good stuff. And I guess the discipline, 9 to 5, like you said, having all day to code. And then, like, I guess we're ingrained with school for a great portion of ours. So it's like that sort of structure where it's like you got this test coming up or you got to pass this final. You're going to be motivated to know what's going on, especially if you know that somebody's going to grill you on it and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So
the structure is the real thing, though, because I think that's one thing that drew me to it at the time, is because I'm like, there is a lot of stuff out here, but there was nothing that was like clear cut. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
This is the pathway to the job. Right.
Yeah. At the time, like, Code Academy was there, but they didn't have like pro stuff and all this other stuff they're doing. It was just very basic. So it was just like, I need structure. There's too much stuff out here. So I guess if it was on the realm of like structure, then yeah, I'd probably still go to coding boot camp, or I'd try to find one online or something like that.
Yep. So there's definitely alternatives. I'm not gonna lie. Now that I've been doing it for a while, it's like, I still buy other people's courses and like learn a ton from a $10 or $20 course. So it's like, it's not like it can't be done for cheaper or that a boot camp is the only way. But I'm just saying that it worked for me. And for it worked for you. It worked. Just saying, so that's also an option. But so what's the future look like, Tiffany? So you got the YouTube channel. We know that's gonna keep going. But on the career front, do you see yourself? Do you want to continue being a software developer? Do you want to move into DevOps? Do you want to go get some, like, I don't know. There's so many infinite things you can do once you know how to code or get into tech. So like, what do you think the future looks like? What are you headed towards?
Well, I could only think of what I'm trying to accomplish in the next year, and a lot of that has to do with like getting better at coding, because I literally am just like, there's things that I still don't know and I'm trying to figure out and I'm trying to do better. And my team lead's like, you have to do this and do that and this. And I'm just like, well, how did I miss that to begin with, right? So I'm trying to get better at those things as far as like we do something called like scoping, and we'll go through something, a task that we have to do, a project. And it's like, how would you go about solving this? And then going through that process, I realized there's so many things that I have not thought about. So I'm trying to get to a point where I think about those things during this whole process. And while I'm coding, I'm like, yes, I know that we have to account for this, this, and this. So I'm just trying to get better at that. If we're talking about like long-term plans, then I don't know, probably business is going to be in my future, like owning something. I've always wanted to, but I'm just like, I don't have anything specific right now. But I feel like eventually I will. So that's definitely something that I'm thinking about.
For sure. Well, thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate you for just taking this time out tonight to talk to me. Anywhere you want to, like, anything you want to shout out, website, socials, any good stuff?
Just follow me on Twitter if you're not already. I feel like, is that a thing? Do people do Twitter?
I don't have a Twitter. But people use Twitter. Yes, Twitter's big.
I'm trying to do better with social media. So I keep telling people, follow me on Twitter, Instagram.
Me too. All right, quick aside, but because since I know you're in the business and everything now, I feel like we're getting to a point now where does business really exist if you don't have social media? Like, it's getting to a point where, like, it's not really optional. I don't care what industry you're in. And that's weird for anybody who, like, has traditionally not been in social media, just off the whole, like, vanity, or I don't do this and I'm not with the whole internet relationship with my friends and people seeing me and all this stuff. It's like, but branding is now just completely a part of, like, on social media, it's just completely a part of a business model. Everything now is so crazy. I'm with you.
I actually went to a marketing conference like a few months ago, and they were all about using like Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, and they were like, you have to promote your business now on all these platforms. Like, listen, I can't be 6 places at once. Like,
right?
I'm not
like people used to buy billboards, and now you've got the whole world at your fingertips for free in terms of advertising and marketing, which is just insane. But but thank you, Tiffany.
Well, where to follow me? At Tip Always Fly.
At Tip. She had to go. Like, let me go ahead and shout it out right now. Go follow me right now. Go follow Tiffany. Thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
All right.